I think he's both. I think he's a great story. He's a great quarterback. To see him, what he did at Cal, to watch him, and I did that the other day. I went back, the sacks that he took. Yeah, pretty much a lock for me. I know Peter can talk more about that, but I think you look at never flinching. I mean, this kid cracked the code like he always talked about.
Get Up lit the fuse on this one, because the moment Mel Kiper Jr. and the rest of that panel started talking about Fernando Mendoza like the #1 pick was already wrapped up, the conversation stopped being about possibility and started being about pressure. Not future pressure, right now pressure. Because once a quarterback is called the clear top pick, once the Raiders are openly viewed as the landing spot, and once people start saying his arm is NFL ready before he has even taken a pro snap, every flaw gets magnified, every comparison gets louder, and every throw at a pro day suddenly feels like evidence in a courtroom. That is why this whole debate matters. It is not just about whether Mendoza looked good, it is about whether the league has already decided he is the answer before the hard part even starts.
Tons of quarterbacks were talked about a lot more than Ty Simpson from Alabama and certainly Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. And now all of a sudden got Mendoza's #1 on my big board, Dan, and Ty Simpson's 25 on my big board.
And let's be honest, that is exactly how it sounded. The reporting around Mendoza's pro day was glowing across the board. Scouts loved the way he commanded the session, the way he layered throws, and the way he handled pressure situations, even in a controlled environment. He completed nearly everything, showed touch on short routes, velocity on deep balls, and comfort throwing on the move. That is exactly what teams want to see from a #1 overall quarterback. But here's the catch. Pro days are designed for quarterbacks to look good. They are choreographed, they're scripted. So while Mendoza checked every box, the real question is whether those boxes actually translate when the pocket collapses and the defense is not cooperating.
This kid is ready for the NFL because he benefited from 35 starts. He's 22 years of age. He'll be 23 in October. Think about the Raiders and that division and the AFC in general with all those great quarterbacks.
Here's the part nobody's talking about. Once the media starts using phrases like cemented his status and there's no drama, the player stops being evaluated like a prospect and starts being treated like a solution. That sounds flattering, but it can also be dangerous because prospects are allowed to grow. Solutions are expected to save people. The Raiders are not just looking for a quarterback here. They are trying to reset the trajectory of a franchise that has spent years searching for stability. So when Mendoza walks into that building, he is not arriving as a normal rookie. He is arriving as the answer people have already convinced themselves they need. And that is what made the Get Up segment so interesting. The show tried to do two things at once. First, it wanted to celebrate what Mendoza clearly is, the likely #1 pick, the quarterback many evaluators see as the safest option in this class. But second, it also wanted to highlight the few things he needs to clean up. That is not disrespect, that is reality. Every quarterback, even the best ones, has something that NFL defenses will target. In Mendoza's case, it is subtle mechanics, especially when throwing on the run to his right. The tendency to jump, lose lower body torque, and rely too much on upper body motion can cost velocity and timing. That may not show up in a pro day, but it absolutely shows up on Sundays. Because that is the thing with quarterback evaluation. Once a guy becomes the favorite, people get weirdly defensive about even mentioning his flaws. But that is the whole point of evaluation. Nobody gets drafted complete. And if Mendoza really is the top quarterback, then talking honestly about his weaknesses should not weaken his case. It should strengthen it. It shows he's coachable. It shows the issues are identifiable and fixable. It shows that his ceiling is still higher than what we're seeing right now.
It's harder to find something consistently that pops up for Fernando that you go, this is something I think he needs to fix. So that's the reason he's going to be the #1 overall pick.
This is where it gets dangerous, because the second people start saying a quarterback has NFL-ready arm talent, fans hear instant success. Those are not the same thing. You can have an NFL-ready arm and still struggle because of decision-making, timing, or the environment around you. The NFL is not about throwing pretty passes in shorts. It is about making the right throw when everything around you is breaking down. And that is why the conversation about Mendoza's situation matters just as much as his talent. Look at where he's going. The Raiders are not a finished product. They are rebuilding. They have made moves, yes, but they are still trying to figure out their identity. That means Mendoza is not walking into a clean situation where everything is set up for immediate success. He is walking into a division full of pressure, expectations, and established competition. That is not a soft landing. That is a test from day one.
Well, one thing we know for sure, we know Fernando Mendoza will likely be the #1 overall pick this year. And Dan, did he forget he didn't even play for Indiana last year? He was on Cal.
And that is why the Kirk Cousins signing matters so much. The Raiders did not just bring him in for depth. They brought him in as a buffer, a veteran presence who can start early, take the hits, and allow Mendoza to develop at the right pace. That's a smart move. It shows the Raiders are not trying to rush their future. They are trying to build it properly. But it also creates another layer of pressure, because now there's a timeline. When does Mendoza take over? When is he ready? And how long can you justify keeping the future on the bench?
Tyler Linderbaum to make him the highest paid center in NFL history, highest paid interior offensive line.
Here's the part nobody's talking about. Once a team starts designing everything around a rookie quarterback before he even plays, the expectations become unrealistic almost immediately. Fans are not going to wait patiently if the team struggles. They're going to want Mendoza. They're going to want to see the future. And the moment he steps on the field, every throw is going to be judged like it's supposed to prove something about the entire draft. Now let's talk about the arm itself, because this is where the headline comes from. Mendoza's arm talent is real. He can drive the ball downfield, he can fit passes into tight windows, and he has shown he can throw with anticipation. His college production backs that up. High completion percentage, big yardage, touchdown production, and the ability to lead a champion team. That is why people feel comfortable calling him NFL ready. It's not just about physical ability, it's about consistency. This is where young players usually make a mistake. They think having the arm means they can make every throw, and that is how turnovers happen. That is how bad habits form. The NFL punishes quarterbacks who rely too much on talent and not enough on discipline. Mendoza will have to learn that quickly. The throws that worked in college will not always be there in the pros. The windows are tighter. The defenders are faster, the margin for error is smaller. And this is where the Arch Manning conversation adds another layer, because even as Mendoza is being crowned the #1 pick, there is already a shadow looming over the entire discussion. What about next year? What about the quarterbacks coming after him? What about Arch Manning and his upside? That is not fair to Mendoza, but it is real. That is how the NFL works. Teams are always thinking ahead. Fans are always comparing. And the moment a new name enters the conversation, the current one gets reevaluated.
Cam Coleman, he's going to have a monster year, but in the NFL, I think he still has some consistency issues to improve with accuracy, velocity, and he'll get there. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year, but I think he would be 3 behind Mendoza and Simpson.
This is where it gets dangerous, because now Mendoza is not just competing against his own expectations, he is competing against future projections, against players who haven't even entered the draft yet. That's a tough place to be, because you can't outperform a hypothetical. You can only play your game. But that doesn't stop people from making those comparisons. And that is why the Raiders' decision matters so much. If they take Mendoza at #1, they are making a statement. They are saying, this is our guy. This is who we are building around. We are not waiting for next year. We are not chasing the unknown. We are committing to what we see right now. That's a bold move, and bold moves define franchises. Now let's zoom out for a second, because this is not just about one quarterback. This is about how teams evaluate talent in today's NFL. The league has become obsessed with upside, projection, and future potential. Sometimes that leads to overthinking. Sometimes the best move is the obvious one. Take the player who has proven he can perform, who has shown leadership, who has demonstrated consistency. That seems to be what Mendoza represents. But at the same time, you can't ignore the risks. Every top pick comes with uncertainty. Every quarterback has a learning curve, and every situation is different. That is why this conversation is so compelling, because there is no perfect answer. There is only the decision you make and the consequences that follow. Here's the part nobody's talking about. Mendoza's biggest challenge might not be proving he is talented enough. It might be proving he can handle the weight of being the answer, because that is what comes with being the #1 pick. You are not just another player. You are the face of the rebuild. You are the symbol of hope. And that is a lot to carry. And that is where the legacy angle comes in. Because years from now, nobody is going to remember how good Mendoza looked at his pro day. They are going to remember whether he changed the Raiders, whether he made them relevant, whether he justified the pick. That is how quarterbacks are judged. Not by potential, but by impact. This is where young players usually make a mistake. They focus on proving people right instead of focusing on getting better. Mendoza can't worry about being the #1 pick. He can't worry about comparisons to other quarterbacks. He has to focus on his development, on his mechanics, on his decision-making, on his leadership. That is the only way to survive the pressure. And that brings us to the real question. Not whether Mendoza is the best quarterback in this class, not whether he has an NFL-ready arm, but whether he is the right quarterback for this moment, for this team, for this situation. Because if the Raiders get this right, everything changes. The narrative shifts, the franchise finds direction. But if they get it wrong, it sets them back again. And in a league where timing matters as much as talent, that is a risk you cannot ignore. So here's the debate. Is Fernando Mendoza truly the kind of quarterback you take first and build your entire future around right now? Or are teams falling in love with the idea of NFL ready because they are tired of waiting for something better? Because if it's the second one, then this pick is not just about talent, it's about impatience. And in the NFL, impatience can cost you everything.